Hey everyone, this is Sky, and I just wanted to come on today and talk a little bit about Saturn retrograde in 2020, which Saturn is going retrograde on May 10th, 2020, and it will be retrograde until September 29th of 2020, so a nice kind of a medium-term transit coming in for us in 2020. With Saturn, we will also be having a Pluto and a Jupiter retrograde at the same time, which I am making videos about. Pluto retrograde's already available, which I will link below, as well as in the top right-hand corner, and the Jupiter retrograde video will go out next week. So yeah, Saturn retrograde, it kind of gives you more energy this time, I think, than you realize. For example, I've put out so much content over the last month, it's crazy. I think right now I can count 27 different pieces of content, 27 videos and audio between YouTube and Patreon, and it's been like absolutely tough to get it all together and to organize it all and to polish it all and to make it all happen. And I just finished, like yesterday, I completed my entire month, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so looking forward to having a day off. And then I wake up today and I'm like, I'm ready to go again. So here we are going into Saturn retrograde, where we're kind of ready to go. We're like, we're having a lot of new things on our plate, perhaps, and Saturn has moved into Aquarius. It just moved into Aquarius in late March, and I made a video on that as well, which I will give to you guys below. But yeah, it's just barely gotten into Aquarius, and it's gonna take a trip back into Capricorn, because Saturn's like, no, get me back to my home sign. Saturn does rule Capricorn, so its home sign is Capricorn. It loves to be in Capricorn, and it has gotten into Aquarius, and it's like, get me back to Capricorn, essentially. So yeah, there's going to be a sort of mirroring of that for us too. In a sense, there might be a lot of things that we're like, get me back. You know, I want to go back to something, or I want to return to something, or I want to reintroduce an older status quo for some people. And then for other people, I think that they're going to fix what their old status quo looked like. So you might get really clear as Saturn moved into Aquarius that, whoa, I don't love my business structure, or I don't love my, you know, my family structure, or I don't feel like my house is in order enough. And then Saturn goes back into Capricorn, and you establish a new normal, and you sort of reinvent what was your typical structured, responsible life into something new. And as it goes back into Aquarius over the next 2.5 years, you will really then have a new growth. And I think that's one of the best ways to channel this particular Saturn retrograde. But before I get ahead of myself, if you would like to join my Patreon page, I'm linking that below as well. You can get these videos early and ad-free, and you can also get your May readings with their extended counterparts. I do weekly tea chats, and there's a lot over there, so I'm just going to link that below. Moving on, so the way that I'm going to structure this video, it's just going to be pretty quick, actually. I'm going to talk about what Saturn retrograde typically is and what we can like pretty much always expect from it. Then I'm going to go into what this particular Saturn retrograde is and how it's different from the rest. So Saturn retrograde, it's never really good in Saturn retrograde to start from scratch or to completely throw everything away. So we kind of know in astrology certain areas of issue for each planet during its retrograde cycle. You know, with Mercury retrograde, we know that there might be delays, there might be errors in communication, there might be unexpected inconveniences, you know, with Pluto retrograde, as I said in the other video, there might be delays with transformation, there might be hesitation for transformation, there might be things that block or inhibit really sudden, unexpected changes or transformations. With Saturn retrograde, there's going to be a hesitation or a blockage of shifting your normal, okay, shifting your status quo. And I think that it's tough because for this Saturn retrograde, we kind of have to do that in a way. There are some shifts to the status quo that will inevitably happen because it's retrograding from Aquarius, which deals with collectives and deals with like, it deals with innovation within a set established structure, and then it's going back into Capricorn, which is basically like the tried and true traditional way. So there's going to be a tender point in this particular Saturn retrograde where on one hand we feel blocked to express the change in the status quo of our lives, yet we have to make it more sturdy or make it happen in some way. So there's going to be a very very defined central point of personal power within this Saturn retrograde. Okay, there's going to be it's going to be very defined. So we'll really know clearly what's not going to get us very far, or what's too far off of center, or what's too much to comprehend or too much to deal with. But we will also see that we can't just cling to the way that things were without any sort of caveat to what we need as a person. So if we've already kind of allowed ourselves to meet our needs, or we've already come into this transit having felt somewhat satisfied with our surroundings or with our career or with the things around us, we're maybe in the minority in that case, because that's a very rare person. But congratulations if you're there. That's awesome. If you don't feel completely, or at least somewhat satisfied with what's around you, buckle up, because this transit is going to make it so. Okay, so we're going to become more pleased with what we actually have. Okay, Saturn retrograde, really, every Saturn retrograde, it takes away that illusion of grasping greener on the other side. And this can be a blessing or a curse for different types of people, where either we're not like given what we have like always wanted so badly, just to see the value of what we currently have, or we get it and then kind of wish that we could go back to. It can kind of go either way. And it's not for everybody that it becomes one of those difficulties, but Saturn retrograde it goes retrograde once a year, you know. This is usually the time of year where people are at least questioning the value of what they have, the security of what they have, and comparing that as well to what is on the other side. A good channeling of Saturn retrograde energy is to really be thoughtful about how you spend, okay? So time, money, and energy. How are you spending it? Where is it going? Just exercising some thought and maybe even writing it out. The best thing for Saturn retrograde is to have a good planner, okay? A good schedule, a good calendar, a good regimented routine to some degree, okay? Something you have to adhere to, something that you're responsible and liable to when it comes to time or money or energy, and health of the physical body even as well. Because Saturn retrograde can kind of show like, oh no, I've been drinking too much coffee or whatever it is. I know I talk about coffee, guys. It's, for some reason, it's like one of the first examples that my mind always goes to. I don't know. But anyway, the things that we know that are or are not so great for us, we have to really focus on those things and make the appropriate decisions, because Saturn is like a paternal, authoritative energy. So, it's going to always loom over us, and it's always going to be above us. Okay, so Saturn is an energy that's always a little bit above us and always has a little bit more control than we do. So it's not so good to just like revolt against Saturn, or to just be like, I know that I need to spend my money differently, but I'm not going to do it because I'm discouraged from the social distancing or something. Or I know that I need to, you know, wake up at this time of day and not, you know, be up that late, but I'm not going to because it doesn't feel right to me. Or I'm seeing a lot of that, especially with the Saturn in Aquarius energy. There's a lot of like small revolting going on inside. Like, I know that it would be better for me to do things this way, but I'm just not going to do it, you know? Like, and it's kind of annoying, actually. There's kind of an annoyance that I think a lot of people are feeling. You might be seeing people around you doing this as well, like it being so clear that things could be easier, or so clear that things could be, like, just a lot less troublesome. But it's like, I'm not going to have it easier, okay? I'm not going to have it less troublesome. I'm not going to feel like my life could be simpler, because I really enjoy having something to be upset about. That's something that this Saturn retrograde, in tandem with the Jupiter and Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, is going to deal with, because Capricorn is like solid, steady, even placed energy. Capricorn is not a temperamental energy. It's not when it's elevated, okay? Of course, there can be Capricorn people who are temperamental because maybe they've got a weird Mars placement or something, or a configuration there. But Capricorn in and of itself is a very neutral, reserved, confined, intelligent, and kind of apolitical energy as well. It's kind of a high neutral energy. So what a Saturn retrograding back into Capricorn says to me is that we've not really been able to get there. You know, we've not really been able to keep neutral about certain things. We've not been able to really, what would I say? We've not been able to actually control ourselves either. Self-control is a big thing with the Capricorn-Cancer axis. And Saturn's coming back to see if we now can. If we now can control ourselves, and it will elevate us really quickly if we can find self-control, if we can find diligence and strategy and follow through for what we're setting out for ourselves. And if we can also know how to react, especially if it's like transiting a water house in your chart, for example, it's really going to see, you know, can you allow yourself not to be hurt by that? You know, can you allow yourself to not try to reason with lunacy? Okay, there's that type of thing coming in for this Saturn retrograde too. So to get back to the point of what a typical Saturn retrograde will bring in is just a look back at responsibility and a look back at how we're spending our time. You know, are we spending all hours of the day being upset about something that's not bringing any fruition? That makes for a tough Saturn retrograde. Are we, you know, going about like not having discipline and being very upset to have any responsibility in life? That makes for a tough Saturn retrograde. Are we really thinking and worried about what we have to do the next day, or what we have to get done, or the responsibilities that we have? We're going to have to do them with the Saturn retrograde most likely. So yes, it makes for such a great time to really get strong and to really feel like you have it within you to create surroundings or environments or tangible reality, you know, Capricorn energy, that is not going to pull you down or make you, or to basically lose control or lose yourself over things that really are not that big of a deal. So yeah, I think that this particular Saturn retrograde really does kind of ask us what we've signed up for, and really shows us what we've signed up for too. Because some of us, I think, are not really happy with what we've signed up for, but also would not really change it for the world either, which is a kind of a difficult place to be. And Saturn retrograde is a great time to get that in order. So a little bit about, and I know we've kind of been talking about both ends of the spectrum, but a little bit about what makes this particular Saturn retrograde, you know, special or individual in its way. What do I feel about this particular Saturn retrograde as compared to like last year's Saturn retrograde? I think that this year it's going to be a lot more about evolution. Okay, because obviously Saturn's transiting over a cusp, and each sign is kind of like an evolution in a way through humanity's consciousness. So yeah, there's going to be maybe a de-evolution backwards in consciousness that is then followed by, you know, another progress made. So you might see that going into the early part of the retrograde, that you are having to deal with some older things, or having to deal with the groundwork or the roots of what you're really putting a lot of energy toward. And then as it moves further retrograde and then turns direct, and you start moving towards the middle and later part of the summer here in the Northern Hemisphere, I think that you will start to really have better growth if you've been able to really rework the ground of what you're trying to grow in life. So yeah, pruning, making sure the ground that you're planting in is capable of bringing and harvesting fruit, you know, spiritually is going to be really important, because maybe some of us have not really been planting in very fertile soil. That's kind of what I feel also with this transit. And there's kind of a last opportunity for an exponential growth here too, because Saturn in Aquarius is not so much about growth, it's about accessibility, okay? So you want to take the opportunity of the next few months to really grow something, okay? To really have a, again, solid framework, solid ground operation of your life, you know? You know, are you happy with the ground you're walking on? Are you happy with the house you're walking through? Are you happy with what you're doing every day? This transit will really make it so, and make, or give you the opportunity to make that so. And something really specific and really pointed that I'm feeling with this Saturn retrograde is that we kind of have to be and express the totality of what we've created. Let's say that somebody wanted to sell like jewelry or something. Let's say they opened a store and they wanted to sell jewelry. This is totally just a hypothetical. What might not work well for them is to be doing it on the side or to be really disconnected from it. You know, they've opened their store, they've started selling the jewelry, and then every weekend they are going out of town and being around people that they don't know and not even talking about the store or not even like representing what they do, in a way living like multiple lives. Because I don't feel that eccentricity is very well supported with this transit and with what else is going on in the sky. So there are times where that can really boost us energetically, where we like, you know, say we're working at the bank or we've opened the jewelry store or we have whatever job it is, and we kind of really get away from it and really live outside of it on our downtime. If we want to be very successful, as Saturn is a planet that deals a lot with success, we have to really embody what we're doing. So the person who's opened the jewelry store probably, again, hypotheticals. I don't know what we can do with all the social distancing and stuff. It's totally hypothetical. They have to maybe be, at conferences every weekend, wearing the jewelry that they sell everywhere, giving out business cards everywhere, putting the stickers on the back of their car with the number, really expressing and representing what success they want in life, so that they kind of start to cast that tone. And that's, some people might kind of be like, well, isn't that kind of like selling out, or isn't that kind of just turning into a personal like branding machine? And it is. But if you're authentic and connected to what you're doing, why is that bad? If what you're doing is honest, and if what you're doing is real and providing something of quality, how could that ever be a bad thing? That's what this energy asks, okay? Are we afraid to really represent what we're doing? And what does that mean for the authenticity of our lives as a whole? And you can apply that to anything: the relationship that you're in, the job that you're working, the dreams and bigger goals that you have as a person. As Saturn is making an interesting synergy with Neptune, so there's something about dreams and goals and the higher unseen visualization of what these stories or these webs that we're weaving right now represent for the future. So I think that we really have to represent, okay, with this transit. And what we don't want to represent, or what we don't want to really show of ourselves, might really be a very clear expression of what actually doesn't feel that right within, but we might just be convincing ourselves that it is. So yeah, whatever you're taking on, or whatever you're trying to build up or structure or format or create now, has to be at a higher expression for you. And you need to kind of get out of any shame or fear or worry about what is authentic to you being accepted or not, or anything like that, because we have to really represent ourselves in a physical way, I'm feeling, with this transit. That's really one of the last lessons of Saturn in Capricorn is, can you physically represent yourself? Can you be on a stage? Can you be seen by other people being proud of what you are doing? Okay. Because we need that. We need that physical representation of what we put a lot of energy into in life, so that it can snowball, and so that we can build more and more success, and so that we can feel like authentic within what we're doing, and so that we can be stronger and gain more. You know, Saturn and Capricorn, it's very physical, tangible energy. Because we are moving more so into the territory of other people. As Saturn transits through the energy of the 10th house and the 11th house, Capricorn and Aquarius, this has kind of left the realm of the completely personal experience. Maybe it's time to meet new people. Maybe it's time to have new experiences, and time to make new deals in your life too. If you're a business person or something, like there's a lot of opportunity with this transit to really start to look the part, to really be well placed in where you've found yourself, and to really just kind of look back at where you've been too, from a higher point, from a higher vantage point, is the really optimum with this transit. And what I would say ultimately is that this is a conclusion generator. It's a very, very conclusive energy, especially as it goes direct and transits its very last degree, its last moment in Capricorn, around the time of like late August, okay? That's a drawn conclusion. That is the energy of a drawn conclusion. So new chapters starting for everyone to some degree, especially when it gets back into Aquarius, okay? And it has its last moment in Capricorn. A conclusion is drawn, and a new chapter is in the effect, essentially. So really great to get all of your structures in order. It's like kind of going to test us a little bit with how our lives are structured and how we embrace regiment in our lives, And if we can do that well, it's only rewards and only tangible well-being, I think. And yeah, Saturn transits, if you're having it very personally, if this is transiting your sun or any personal planet, it's never easy, but it's reasonable. Saturn is always reasonable. It's not just difficulty for no reason. It's not just pain or discord or chaos with no, like, purpose. Neptune and Pluto can kind of be that way sometimes, depending on what's going on. But Saturn always has reason and it always has purpose. So if something has gone awry, or if something upends itself within this transit, or just ends, or just is not accessible anymore, that is with a good reason. And the best thing you can do is understand why and what that reason is, and start to build anew. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you were able to get it early on Patreon, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you haven't joined or signed up for my Patreon yet, it is probably the best time. It is probably the best value right now, because we're doing weekly tea chats. We have monthly benevolence. We have early ad-free access, as well as extended readings, and then videos like this with early access as well. I'm also doing live premieres here on YouTube every Friday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And those have just been, I think, one of my favorite things during this time to cultivate, and to have that safe socializing live chat that we have, I think is so great, because it's a way to be social with people. We all start to kind of have fun together and create space for each other, and it's totally safe in this time. So that's what I'm most proud of, what I've created at this time. So I hope to see you there if you would like to come. 6 p.m. PST every Friday, and new topics every Friday. And hit the subscribe button, turn on those bell notifications so you can get an alert. I would never remember. Like, if I were an audience member of a YouTube channel and someone was like, it's at this time every week, I would never remember. So be sure to hit that bell notification on subscribe, and keep tuned to the community posts. And I also, post updates on Twitter and Instagram as reminders. So if you guys want to follow me over there, I put other content out there. I'm doing a lot. So description box below will have all of the info. Thank you guys so much for being here. Get prepared for that Saturn retrograde. I'm wishing you so much love and light. We'll talk soon. Bye.